So the first betrayal that Kalonzo did to Raila was to deny Raila a political party to run from. So that is where their differences started. So in first world countries, if Kenya was a first world countries, we need professional to move our economy to grow from this to this. Then we go to Kalonzo. That group is a group that can bring revolution in this country. Revolution is brought by such characters. So in my own opinion, this is the political suicide Jalang'o has committed. And if he does not believe in this, he will be buried.
And you remember Kalonzo has the former president Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
He has Rigathi Gachagua, DCP man,
yes.
to your ground.
Yes.
Who has the upper hand? Good to see you. Hello there and welcome to our edifying conversations to help our political leaders and to help Kenyans make informed decisions even as we're heading towards 2027. My conversation today is with communication expert Chapia Chapia. He's also a campaign strategist. He does a lot for different campaigns. And I like to have him because he tells people the truth, whether people like to hear it or not. He'll just tell them his own truth. And that is the reasoning behind this platform. We bring people so that they can speak the truth. And that is why I have these conversations every single week with Chapia Chapia. Great to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm fine and I'm happy to be on the show.
Last week you were on fire about Babu and Sakaja.
I was busted proper, but that is the truth.
That is the truth.
And the truth will always set me free. Yes.
Our conversation for today is about the new party leader of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. It seems as if it's going to be Kalonzo versus Ruto in 2027. Who will win? If we look at their histories, if we look at their similarities, that is my conversation. Look, where did Kalonzo Musyoka come from? Where did he get into this limelight that now, you know, Kalonzo might actually be president if he competes against Ruto and wins?
Kalonzo joined politics around 1986. And the first time he ran in 1986, he lost it. It was a single party state when he was dealing with KANU. So Kalonzo lost it.
At the nomination?
At the nomination, okay. Yes. But the MP for Saikuru, I think he passed on after 2 years. So Moi gave Kalonzo direct ticket for KANU. And then that was the first time Kalonzo was elected. So in around 88, that was the first time Kalonzo was elected. Then from there, Kalonzo joined the government. And then he was lucky. When he was elected, Moi gave him assistant minister. Them days we didn't have deputy or vice. He was just assistant minister. So that is how Kalonzo was introduced into politics after graduating from University of Nairobi.
Okay.
Then after that we came to 1992. In 1992 election, now when we started multipartyism, now Kalonzo made a bold move because now Raila had, the late Raila had joined Moi under the new KANU. So Moi, and when Moi opted to appoint Uhuru Kenyatta as the presidential candidate in 2002, there was mass exodus from KANU. So the likes of Kalonzo, the late Professor George Saitoti, and a good number of politicians left KANU and moved with Raila to LDP, where they joined the Mwai Kibaki to form NAC. That is Rainbow. So that is how Kalonzo transited now from government, from Moi to this other side of NAC. Okay. So that is how Kalonzo moved. He joined Raila and moved. But on the other side, William Ruto by then stood by Uhuru Kenyatta. They remained in KANU. Then Uhuru Kenyatta was the KANU presidential candidate in 2002. And my brother Musalia Mudavadi was the vice president.
Okay.
Yes.
So how has Kalonzo navigated through politics since then, if you look at his relationship with Raila Odinga?
If I check on the relationship of Kalonzo and Raila Odinga, it has been good and bad relationship because they were very much together. When they moved from KANU to join LDP, to join NAC, to form a Rainbow Coalition, they worked very together for the first 3 years. Then we went for a referendum that was in 2005, where we were now trying to have the new constitution. And then during that time, Raila and Kalonzo, they were both in government, and Kalonzo was a minister and Raila was a minister. But now when they were in government, when we brought in the new constitution, what happened is that the new constitution, when the new 2005 referendum, the north side had red in color. And I remember the Electoral Commissioner by then was Kivitu.
Oh, yes.
And then the government said those who were supporting this constitution were green. And those who were opposing the constitution were given red colors.
Okay.
So Kalonzo was in government, but it's like he was supporting the red team. So that is how the name Watermelon was developed.
Yeah.
Because Kalonzo was in government that was supporting green as a symbol for new constitution.
Yes.
And red was opposing.
Yes.
So during the day, he was green, supporting the government side of Mwai Kibaki. During the night, he was red. So that is how the name Watermelon was coiled.
Okay.
Then after that referendum, Kalonzo and Raila were dismissed from the government. The Kibaki formed a new Kibaki the way William Ruto did in 2024 after Gen Z demos, and also the Kibaki dismissed Kalonzo and a good number of guys plus the likes of Railas.
Yes.
Then they moved to, now they formed both Kalonzo and Raila, they were still together. Now they formed ODM Kenya.
Okay.
So they were running ODM Kenya as they were preparing for the 2007 election.
Yes.
Then in 2007, Kalonzo and Raila, Kalonzo betrayed Raila.
Oh.
Because what happened in 2007, Raila was going to run for presidency using ODM Kenya. And Kalonzo had the party. So Kalonzo refused with the party. And Kalonzo ran, during that 2007 election, Kalonzo went to election using ODM Kenya. So Raila was lucky because we had now ODM Kenya and Gitobu Imanyara had registered another political party called ODM Party. So when Kalonzo refused with ODM Kenya, Raila bought from Gitobu Imanyara ODM Party, the current ODM now.
From Imanyara.
From Imanyara. But the original ODM was ODM Kenya. So the first betrayal that Kalonzo did to Raila was to deny Raila a political party to run from. So that is where their differences started. Then apart from that, now when the new government was formed, then we had post-election violence. So Raila went different side because he was claiming the win, and Kalonzo went on a different side. So Kalonzo, he came up with the term, ni alipita katikati yao. So another betrayal occurred when Kalonzo betrayed Raila by accepting to be the vice president because Kibaki appointed Kalonzo. So that was the second betrayal where Kalonzo now betrayed Raila. But in politics, we don't have permanent enemies. Because in 2013, when now they formed CORD, Kalonzo and Raila again came together. By that time, now William Ruto joined Uhuru Kenyatta. So that is for the first now under the new constitution. So that is a brief history about Kalonzo hot and on relationship with Raila Odinga.
Because we're talking about William Ruto and Kalonzo Musyoka, what are their similarities? If you look at, both of them have become deputy presidents. Both of them have served in government for a period of time. How would you compare them in terms of how their politics is?
If you compare their similarity, you find out that Kalonzo is a diplomat, a very good diplomat, because when he was serving as a foreign minister, he did a very good job. He was the one behind the peace in Southern Sudan. He had done it at international level. So at that diplomatic way, you find out that Kalonzo is persuasive. And Kalonzo is very diplomatic when it comes to uniting the nations. The same things happens to William Ruto. When it comes to, they are both diplomatic, but the only difference is the personality. William Ruto is a diplomatic, but on very hard and comes out very strong and with facts. Kalonzo is diplomatic, but comes out a bit soft and kind. But the end result is almost the same. So in terms of comparison, when it comes to diplomacy, Kalonzo performed very well as a diplomat. Because during that time, Kenya had a very good foreign policies. And all those policies were being run by Kalonzo. That is why Kalonzo was consistent, the foreign affairs minister 2013, 2017. during the Kibaki time, not during the Uhuru time, during the Kibaki time.
Yes.
That is 2007 and 2008 to 2013. So he performed very well. And even during the Uhuru times, Uhuru appointed Kalonzo also to do some diplomatic work. So when it comes to intergovernment coordination, Kalonzo performs very well.
Is there any other similarity you've seen, political one, between Kalonzo and William, not looking at diplomacy?
Yes, there is. One of another similarities I've seen between, can compare between Kalonzo Musyoka and President William Ruto is that these guys, they are persuasive. They are persuasive and they are good communicators. That is, Kalonzo at a boardroom level is very good communicator and he is very persuasive. The same things happens with William Ruto. That when it comes to their negotiation skills, you find out that William Ruto is a very good negotiator. And before he do any negotiation, he plans very well. The same things happens to Kalonzo. Okay. That's why in the ongoing negotiation under united opposition, if they will go through negotiation, Kalonzo will be the presidential candidate because he's a very good negotiator and he has facts. The same things happens to William Ruto. He's a good negotiator. That is why he managed to convince Raila Amolo Odinga to join him as a broad-based government. So where these guys are too, but they are very good negotiators. And they are also very good mobilizers. But you find out that with the difference in their mobilization skill is that Kalonzo is more of a professional. That is, he mobilized professionally. He mobilized in boardrooms. Okay. But now William Ruto ni mtu wa ground. Yeye ni gurudumu ya ground. So he mobilizes through the streets. So that is some of their differences they can have. But the end goal remains the same. These guys are all good mobilizers.
How about leadership skills?
When we come to leadership skills, I can say that...
who is a better leader?
Both of them are leaders. Maybe now we can... No, both of them are leaders. We can discuss who is a better manager. But if you, in terms of leadership, you find out that if you compare the leadership skills of Kalonzo Musyoka, is that all the party, when he was appointed as when he formed his political parties, Wiper Democratic Movement, or Wiper Patriotic Movement, ODM Kenya, you find out that Kalonzo has been able to keep all his friends and his party organized. Because if you come to how the running of the party, Kalonzo has run his party very well. When it comes to maybe if he has privileges to appoint people in government, he has done the same. So when we come to leadership, I can say Kalonzo is a good leader. But if I try now to compare him with William Ruto, William Ruto seems to be a better leader compared to Kalonzo Musyoka. Because Kalonzo Musyoka leads a small entity and William Ruto leads a big entity. In this way, if you compare the number of the Wiper Patriotic, the number of MPs from Wiper or from the Kalonzo's party, they are always around 25, 26 or around 20. But when William Ruto formed URP, he had around 50 MPs. So he was leading a bigger political party. And then in terms of leadership, William Ruto moved from URP and then joined with Jubilee of Uhuru Kenyatta. And they become the largest party. But you find out that Kalonzo party has been stagnating. And we want a leader who is progressive. So politically, if I base my indicators on the number of MPs, I will say William Ruto is a better leader or a good leader than Kalonzo. Because URP grew. When URP was introduced in 2013, it had around 40 MPs. But now when URP teamed up with Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017, the number of MPs went over higher, around 110, 115, both Jubilee. But you find out that in 2013, Kalonzo had around 29 MPs. Then when we came to 2017, the number of MPs went down to around 26. Now, when we come to 2022, the number of Wiper MPs has gone further down. So in terms of growth, leadership growth, I will say, basing on the number of MPs these two gentlemen have had, the number of MPs on the Wiper side has been going down, and the number of MPs on the William Ruto side has been going high. So I will say William Ruto is a better leader, because a leader is the one that let other people grow, or the organization is leading, it grows.
When you look at the followers of Kalonzo Musyoka and William Ruto, how would you compare the two as you're heading to 2027? Because it is important to have followers, and you need to have followers who will vote for you. This is what people were talking about Raila. He had fanatical followers. He'd say come and everyone comes. It doesn't matter whether you've mobilized or not. How would you compare the two?
If I compare the two in terms of the following, first, I will say that Kalonzo is a professional and William Ruto is a politician. And the politicians, they invoke followers. We provoke the emotions and the feelings of followers so that they can follow you fanatically the way Raila was doing. And William Ruto has developed a way of linking or interacting with his followers. They have nicknamed him Hustler, that was in 2017. Then he's good in creating a relationship for the followers. And most of the followers will prefer being identified with him. Our brother Kalonzo Musyoka, he also has followers. But you find out that his base of followers has remained constant. In 2002, most of the followers for Kalonzo Musyoka were his cousin and kinsmen from Ukambani. In 2017, he has not extended that base. It is still Ukambani. In 2022, he did the same. And in 2027, when he's now bargaining to get the followership or the leadership of the united opposition, if they put numbers, Rigiji will beat him. Because the strength of Kalonzo is within a section of the followers, within a section, a region. It's like Ukambani region. So he has not extended his followers outside Ukambani region. But if you compare now to William Ruto, of course he has a base of...
Who has lost a lot of followers since Gen Z protest.
Yes, but if you compare to William Ruto followers, if I start, the first time he contested was in 1997. He has never lost election. Since 1997, we came 2002, 2007, all those. William Ruto has never lost election. If basing on that, then this is a guy who develops his followers. Because a person who has never lost election, around 5 elections continuously, it means these guys can keep a track record of his followers. And then when it came to even to 2022, he's the first deputy president to win election, which means he created followers outside his docket. That is why the biggest chunk of the voters for William Ruto in 2022 are not from Rift Valley, were from central Kenya, watu wa Mlima. They voted for him around 4 million votes, apart from the people from where his natives. So if I compare in that line again, you find out that Kalonzo has lost several elections. He lost in 1986 when he was starting, and Ruto won immediately when he started the first bit. So Kalonzo lost 2013, Kalonzo lost with Raila 2013, lost with Raila 2017, and for Azimio 2022, his side lost.
Debatable losses, we must say.
Yes, it is. I agree.
Debatable losses.
Yes.
But now, why has Ruto lost his followers since 2022? Does this disqualify his leadership skills? Because we've seen people who voted for him now don't want to watch him even on TV.
That is a statement that cannot be proved factually. Because at the moment, it cannot be proved factually. Because there is no test that shows Ruto. There is perception. In politics, people create perception. For example, they say Ruto has lost the followers from Mrima. And last month, when Ruto was doing grassroots election in Nyeri, 18,000 people were competing for party position. And Ruto held a big rally, not a big rally, a big engagement with the 18,000 people who were elected in UDA in Nyeri. He did the same in Nyandarua. He did the same in Murang'a. So there is the perception that Ruto has lost Mulima. That perception can only be verified when we will be doing scientific voting. And There is also perception that Ruto had lost Gen Z. In the first place, they were no Gen Z. The Gen Z had not registered in 2022. So in 2022, if you say a particular person, you only lose what you have. In 2022, Gen Z had not registered. So how do you say...
Gen Z entirely, because I'm Gen Z and yes. I voted. So some...
majority. Majority. Let me use the term majority. In 2022, majority of Gen Z had not registered. So by saying that William Ruto has lost a chunk of Gen Z, it is not correct. Because in the first place, you only lose there. But if you come now to the other side of Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, you find out that in Ukambani, there is forces that are infighting the Wiper. For example, in Ukambani, we have the forces that we are with Raila, and they are even planning to oppose Kalonzo. The likes of Ngilu was the other time was opposing Kalonzo. So to consolidate the followers, I think William has consolidated Rift Valley. Though he still have some few guys like Kater and some few individuals who are opposing William, like Gideon Moi, but they are not significant on the ground compared to the people or the kinsmen that are opposing Kalonzo in Ukambani. So in terms of holding bases of followers, I'll say William Ruto has performed, because now I'm talking in terms, he has never lost election, and election, it is people. It is the followers who vote for you. Kalonzo has lost several elections.
Debatable.
Yes.
How do you compare their personalities, Kalonzo Musyoka and William Ruto? The conversation about one former deputy president impeached, Rigathi Gachagua, is that leaders cannot work with him.
Yes.
You know, you've listened to Amoshomba, you've listened to others who would say it's very difficult to work with Rigathi Gachagua. Some say, you know, there are leaders who don't listen. We were talking about that before we started the show. We find people they don't listen to you. How would you compare the two in terms of Kenyans looking at them at the ballot?
If I talk of their personality, their personality is totally different because Kalonzo is more of a professionals, and Kalonzo approach issues with the professional mind. He's a boardroom guy. In a boardroom, for example, when he was serving as the foreign affairs minister, he was one of the best foreign affairs ministers Kenya will never had, because that is in line of professionalism.
Yes.
And he's a kind person. But when now you bring in William Ruto is a go-getter. William Ruto is a grassroots person. Is a go-getter, and William Ruto can perform very well on the at a grassroots level compared with Kalonzo. So when we are differentiating between a leader and a manager, Kalonzo can make a very good manager, because a manager follows the procedures that you are supposed to report at 8 to 10. You are supposed to do A, B, C, D. So that is how Kalonzo is. But now when you are comparing, a leader is a person who influences people in a particular direction. So in terms of leadership, I will say William Ruto can influence people towards a particular direction. But in terms of a good manager, Kalonzo is a good manager. But leadership, William Ruto is ahead. But managerial skills, how to run, how to be professional, how to run offices, how to run a political party, to follow the procedures, Kalonzo is a very good.
Some say maybe it is Kalonzo people want, more like a Kibaki person. You know, a statesman. We have tested Ruto. We've tested Uhuru. Let's have this statesman in Kalonzo. Do you think Kenyans will look at that? Unfortunately,
if we are a developed country, like the first world countries, they look in all those aspects. But now when it comes to Kenyans, the political selection will be polarized and will be considering so many other things. So the influence, the person who will have influence on voters is likely to take the day, because Kalonzo will have a soft influence on voters. For example, Kalonzo, even when he was with Mheshimiwa Raila, Kalonzo was not good in Mandamano. He's not a street person. So calling for Mandamano, doing Mandamano, Kalonzo will not do that. So, and Kenyans, we need a president who will make a radical decision. And professionals don't make radical decisions. It is nature. Professionals, they follow what we call a strategic plan of 2022 to 2021.
Yeah.
So Kalonzo is more of a professional.
What we need.
Yeah. But Kenyans, we need a radical person who will do the radical changes.
Oh.
So like the current president has been doing radical changes. You are changing this because Kenya is a country that we now want to move from being a third world country to a first world country. And for you to move from a third world country to a Singapore, to a country like South Korea, we need radical changes like what is happening. Kalonzo might be a bit naive in making those radical changes. We need to change this country. So in terms of leadership and changing this country, I think Kalonzo will be good as maybe a diplomat or a cabinet secretary or maybe a speaker of the National Assembly where he has the laws, the orders and all those things.
But I've talked to you about Kibaki, who was more like Kalonzo, and people still voted for him. And people actually say he is one of the best presidents Kenya has ever had. Why do you think it is different? Let's not about the ground per se in terms of voting, but in terms of, who Kenyans want now.
A Kenyans want a radical. In my perspective, a Kenyans wants a leader who can make radical decision and a leader who is not a populist. That is what Kenyans want. But if I pick the aspect of Kibaki, some people argue he was the best president Kenya will never have. Kibaki was not a micro manager. During Kibaki's time, you could hear more of his ministers performing than Kibaki himself. During Kibaki's time, that is the time we heard about Mishuki. That is now when Mishuki was rattling a snake. The discipline in matatu industry was brought during the Kibaki's time because Mishuki was given a free hand. Kibaki is not a micro manager. But if you look at the way the Kalonzo is running his Wiper Democratic Party or Wiper or whatever is running, all the news and operation of that Wiper are around Kalonzo. So Kalonzo has not developed strong leaders. So he's a micromanager. So that is the difference.
No.
Kibaki was hands off, a fence sitter. If he gives you a docket, you run that docket. That is why even today the ministers who are in the Kibaki's government are more remembered than some of the ministers who are in Uhuru's government. So Kenya now needs because we are at a situation where we have 1,000 of Gen Zs finishing universities. They need jobs. A professional will take time to give. We need radical changes that will enable these Gen Zs to get jobs. We are at a time whereby Kenyans, we are all over the country looking for better future, economical. So we need a radical person who can come up with the economical strategies. So in my opinion, Kalonzo Musyoka is not that person who can do those radical changes.
Okay.
Kalonzo will be a bit safe on the decision he's making. He will not want to hit people or to hurt people.
Okay.
So that one maybe can come in future where now the country will be stabilized. But at this transition level where we are changing, we are moving from third world to first world country, I will not vote for him. I will go for a radical person who can do those radical changes.
Who has a upper hand now, campaign-wise? Ruto versus Kalonzo. You put that headline on screen. Who has a upper hand?
I will use some indicators.
And you remember Kalonzo has the former president Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
He has Rigathi Gachagua, DCP man,
Yes.
to your ground.
Yes.
Who has a upper hand?
If I will use, I can use several indicators. If I use the indicators of financial muscles, of course, Kalonzo has Uhuru is supporting Kalonzo, Rigiji is supporting Kalonzo. But in politics, when you are running yourself, you pump more resources to yourself than when you are pumping those resources to a different person. So in terms of financial muscles, of course, I will say Kalonzo has not been moving around the country. He's only campaigning in the boardrooms or calling the press conferences because of resources. Because to move a presidential campaign from Nairobi to Kisumu or Busia or Mombasa, it is a lot of money. So in terms of logistics movement, you cannot compare Kalonzo with William because Ruto is the president. So he has some advantages of state resources. So in terms of logistics, I think is ahead. William Ruto is ahead. And even when you come now in terms of international networks, William Ruto being the president, he has so many leeway of international networks or goodwill from international people. So you'll find out that he has more international network or people who will be willing to support him than our brother Kalonzo Musyoka. But when it comes now to diplomacy, calmness, and the strategic, maybe now we want to have a president who that is calm, who is professional, who is a bit not aggressive, then Kalonzo will take that. Because Kalonzo is a professional. He's more of a professional than a leader. So in first world countries, if Kenya was a first world countries, we need professional to move our economy to grow from this to this. Then we go to Kalonzo. But because Kenya is a developing country, this is the time we are developing even some dual highway from Limuru to Mau Summit. We need a person who will come up with the radical ideas. This is the time we are privatizing some of the government parastatals that are running at a loss. This is the time we are privatizing them. So we need a radical. So if I compare the two, William Ruto will beat. Kenyans need, for now, Kenyans needs a William Ruto than a Kalonzo because of the radical changes that this country needs to do these radical changes so that we move from that world to the first world. If you compare the president who moved South Korea from the third one to the first one, he was a radical president. He sacked the entire cabinet. If you compare the president who moved Malaysia from third world country to first world country, he was a radical president. And he ran that country on military rules until when the country stabilized, then he brought in democracy. So where Kenya is now, we don't need a professional. We need a person who can make radical decisions.
Is that person William Ruto, though? Because if you look at the past 3 years, what has he done to show that he's a radical president? And because I actually listened to him say that those countries developed under dictators, but now we have to strengthen parties. But he hasn't strengthened what he agreed on with UDA and ODM pact. If you look at the scorecard, he's performing badly on that. So is President Ruto that person?
In my opinion, if I compare Ruto, because now the question, remember I'm comparing William Ruto and Kalonzo Musyoka. If I compare the two, the way you had asked the question, then William Ruto is that person. And I can put some facts to support that. There is some radical changes he has done in this country that even risked him being elected in 2027 general election. One of those radical changes he has done is privatization. He has done privatization of several state parastatals so that he can generate that money into infrastructure fund that was passed by parliament. If you are a soft guy, a person you can risk, because that is a radical decision. That is one. Number two, another decision that he has made that is not even favoring him, that it needed a radical mind to make, is to work with Raila Odinga. Uniting this country, after we won, Kenya was split into two. And as President Ruto, he has a right to rule this country alone. But he made a radical decision of coming up with a broad-based government. So those are some of the radical decisions he has made. And then also another radical decision he has made. It was last week. He made a radical decision. This country, we need a lot of money to fund this country, the taxation. But President William Ruto has made a radical decision. All the people earning below 30,000 Kenya shillings will go tax-free. So for a president who wants the country to move from third world country to the first world country, and you are removing taxation for around of any Kenyans earning below 30,000, and you are reducing taxation by 5% of a person who are earning below 50,000, those are radical decisions. So in terms of that, I will say this is the guy we want. Because if I compare some of the radical decisions, maybe I can say Kalonzo Musyoka made, is that in 2007, 2008, when we had the post-violence election, when people are being killed in this country, Kalonzo Musyoka made a radical decision of accepting to be the vice president of Kibaki. Because by that time, PNU had very few number of MPs. So Kalonzo Musyoka joined him with his MP. So that was a radical decision he made that time to bring sanity. So that is how now we managed to bring in Kofi Annan and formed government of national unity. So that is another radical decision. Another radical decision, if I can say, on the side of Kalonzo, but to me it was naive in 2022, when Kalonzo accepted Martha Karua to deputize Raila Odinga, and in terms of numbers, in terms of influence, in terms of political prowess, national appeal, Kalonzo was ahead. So, and Kalonzo delivered more votes to Raila Odinga than Martha Karua. So if you make a radical decision that slows you down and it does not benefit the country, then you better don't do that.
What should Kalonzo do now if he is to beat Ruto?
If Kalonzo wants to beat William Ruto, number one, he must be sure he is the presidential candidate of United Opposition. That is number one. At the moment, he has been endorsed by Wiper Patriotic Front. Yeah. So he is a presidential candidate of a party within United Opposition. So one of the things he must do by now, he must go and bring in all the United Opposition leaders and declare him, from today, Kalonzo Musyoka, you are our presidential candidate. But if they dilly-dally, then, and on this other side, we are sure it is William Ruto with the presidential candidate. So Kalonzo, those are some of the things he needs to move very fast to convince, using his persuasion skills, to convince the United Opposition to give him a chance so that he declare himself and he start preparing. Because when you are a presidential candidate, that is the time you attract funders, that is the time you attract donors, that is the time you attract even aspirants. But for example, because like last week when William Ruto had aspirant forum in State House, they were around 12,300 because they are sure this is the presidential candidate. But for now, some of the aspirants will not want to associate with Kalonzo because they are not sure. Will he be a presidential candidate or what will be he? So he must do that, number one. Number two, I will tell Kalonzo Musyoka to move away from press conference in Serena, in Karen, and in boardroom to get back to the streets and ask for voters. Because if you see his engagement, he's more engaged in boardrooms and in press conferences. He's not compared to William Ruto, who is engaged all over. So that is another thing I will advise Kalonzo to do. And then another thing, Kalonzo should establish followers, the people who believe in him. He should come up strongly because now Kenya needs a strong president and most Kenyans consider him as a gentleman. And during the changing or the transition, Kenya, we are on transition. We are moving from third world to first world. We don't want a gentleman in this politics. We want a guy who will make radical decision as we move. So those are some of the things, and establish followers because he needs to grow his base. He's just based in Ukambani.
Finally, could Gashagua have given Ruto a run for his money? I know we're talking about Kalonzo, but based on what you're saying, do you think Gashagua would have given Ruto a run for his money?
Gashagua, in my opinion, Gashagua could have done something better than Kalonzo. Because Gashagua can come out strongly. He's a person who seems that he can come out strongly. But the only problem, the undoing for him, and he has consistently been doing that, is just campaigning in one area. Today is in Murang'a, tomorrow is in Nyeri. Occasionally he goes out. The last time he was outside Central, or outside Murima, I can't remember. So he has concentrated. But if he was packaged well, brought out as a national leader, then he's a guy we can watch. William Ruto can watch. But for now, he is strong in a small village. So for now, William Ruto will still beat him because he's not nationwide.
Well, it is Kalonzo versus William Ruto. Will that be the case in 2027? Leave a comment down below. I don't know if you saw Sifuna in Busia. Kenyans are talking about it. What's your opinion about
Yes,
Sifuna?
I saw Sifuna in Busia, the likes of Babu and all that and all that group. That group, what I want to talk about, that group is a group that can bring revolution in this country. Revolution is brought by such characters. If you compare the South Sudanese revolution, it was brought by a hawker. A hawker was shot dead in the street, and people that started a revolution. If you compare French revolution, it was started by very small people. So what Sifuna and the Babu, Owino and Osotsi, they are doing, they are building a revolution. The only advantage they have, that revolution, that it can win the Gen Zs alone. So I think it is a group that is trying to align itself with
Should
them.
Ruto watch out for them?
Of course. That one is, there's nobody who can assume that combination, because that is how the revolutions are built. And that revolution of Okina Sifuna, it is more appealing and attractive to people of your age. The Gen Zs are so much attracted to that. And if you are any serious presidential candidate, and you know the Gen Zs are there, they are the majority in this country, then we should, the President William Ruto should be worried.
I've heard,
because that is the way that revolution is being, and they are very attractive to the Gen Zs.
I've heard Jalang'o is coming to Nairobi to compete with Sifuna.
For issue of Jalang'o, I pity my brother. What Jalang'o is doing
We're just wrapping up, but
yes,
what
Jalang'o is doing is a political suicide. Because running against Sifuna, I told you in the last show that Nairobi, we vote on a tribal basis. So running against Sifuna, you are setting Jalang'o against Luyas. No Luya will vote for him. Running against Sifuna, you are setting Jalang'o against Babu Owino, and you are setting Jalang'o against Kidero, because Kidero wants to be the governor. Babu Owino wants to be the governor. And the influence of Kidero on Luos or Luo Nyanza on Babu Owino and Jalang'o has got no influence. So Luos will not vote for him. Again, you are setting Jalang'o against Rigiji or the United Opposition. So in my own opinion, this is the political suicide Jalang'o has committed. And if he does not believe in this, he will be buried in the coming election. Or doing nomination, he will go nowhere. So I advise Jalang'o, this war is too big for you. This is the men you are fighting, you cannot manage them. He cannot manage Sifuna.
Thanks for tuning into that conversation. Sorry we've digressed because I was just interested in what is happening with Sifuna. Until we do talk again, have yourself a lovely rest of your day. Chapia Chapia, hope to see you next week. We can have these engagements as many times as possible, despite the comments that you are receiving.
Yes. Watu wananinyorosha, but I am used to the truth always will set me free.
Thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day.